Now, before we get started in the content today, I'm going to let you guys know off of the rip that I get conflicted in doing content like this I do not want to stoke the fire, right? I don't want to add gas, oil, and kerosene on something that, was a real situation. The podcast between Corey Holcomb and Anton Daniels, the importance of the cultural commentary behind that, because there is a ton of things that are happening. It needs deep analysis because I think that the culmination or the summary of what is going on, I think it can help people in assessing what are the things that I can take out of this situation in order to improve my life, my mindset, so I can go into the future and do more damage with the time that I have on this planet. So, although I like both of the guys, they have diametrically opposed views, and I want to go into where those views stem from and how it culminated into that discussion, which was almost a fight, okay? I saw a lot of you guys commenting that, but you didn't give you a synopsis, MTO. Well, I did at the end of it, but I'm going to give you guys a much more summarized view while also deeply analyzing the factors at play. Nevertheless, I was talking to my homegirl yesterday about the situation, and a lot of what she was saying was very surface level. Him bad, he shouldn't have said that. If you go deeper and you really look at what's happening here, you have a Corey Holcomb that is, I believe the brother is in his mid-50s, and it seems as though the foundation for much of his thinking, when I say much, let's not say that. Let's say the foundation for his thinking in yesterday's conversation is that of more a hood code, hood culture, street culture. Perhaps you might even say black culture, okay? One of the things that Corey said in the conversation, I don't even think I said anything about it yesterday in my breakdown, is to Anton, you've never been to jail, right? Because you wouldn't talk like this, right, if you've gone through that. Anton's response to that was immediately, why would I compare anything that I'm doing in life with jail culture, jail life?
What that mean then?
I'm just saying, like, if you went to jail, they would have to start you over from scratch.
What would they do to you?
The people who
You would be the tough one.
No. Just let me land with this. The people
I don't think from a jail perspective. I'm not a jailbird. I'm never going to jail.
I see.
What we
Well, you
talking
can't
about?
say what you'll never do, but I'm saying.
never going to jail, bro.
But, okay.
I don't even have that dog. I don't even like that type of energy.
I'm just trying to make a point. Anton. What I'm saying is, I have been around enough people who have been institutionalized where I know how to carry myself around men who not finna play with you. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I don't hang around.
And I think that thought right there, even though Corey has never been to jail as well, the comparison of what two dudes are doing out here in freedom land, and also multimillionaires, the thought to compare how someone should react to something to somebody that is currently incarcerated or has been through the penile system. Here's the thing. If you're incarcerated and then you come out, if you've made a change in your life, then you are no longer quick to react to somebody's words. And I think that said a lot within the conversation. And the reason that I think that it's important is because of the last thing that I labeled that I think that thought comes from, which is black culture. Black men within black culture, this has been said a multitude of times before, we are not a monolith. We can be, and we should be, individual thinkers. Now, there might be some things that changes the way that we think about things dependent upon our cultural upbringing, which Corey obviously leveraged. But then also, Anton was not addressing the situation within that mindset. Anton was addressing the situation in a mindset that the component of black culture that Corey was framing that portion of the conversation in would call Anton's thoughts weak. They might call him corny. They might call him a clown. Right? They might call him a pushover, a weirdo. Name the terminology. But the fact of the matter is that the ideology that Corey chose to frame his position in comes from a mindset, an older mindset, where men were in survival mode. The mindset of don't say anything gay towards me, because if you do, other people would see that as a line of disrespect. It is survival mode ideology, prison ideology.
That's all I'm saying.
I don't hang around niggas that have been to jail, so I saw for it that way. The way you saw for it is a little bit different than the way I saw for it.
Okay.
So I choose not to hang around niggas that's been institutionalized, that had to carry themselves a certain way because they made a decision that they wasn't supposed to make.
And you know, it shows that you've been around people that ain't seen the other side of the game. Because some of the smartest men I know they've been to college and gave that time up. And it was actually a learning process for them. But they still got to stand 10 toes down when they out here, Anton. I don't believe that you tried to disrespect me now that I've been talking to you. I don't believe that. I believe that you are the way you are. I am the way I am. And it can clash if people are not educated on how to be around each other, because men can go to war over misunderstandings.
The ideology that I sided with yesterday in that conversation, and the ideology that also, in this spirited debate, came from Anton, was a more modern ideology, and a lot of that is not only predicated within my understanding of Black culture, but is also within, and also masculinity and manhood, but is also within the understanding of this current internet culture. The interesting thing is, I believe Anton is probably like 42, 43, if I was to take a guess. Anton and I grew up in a time where we saw the internet not be here. Like, it wasn't a thing until we were like around 9 or 10. And then we've kind of watched this cultural shift to the tune of being able to make money, real money, off of the internet. Quick emergency meeting. I was recently searching for my name online and found way too much personal information, which brought me down this weird rabbit hole of how that could have happened, and found out that there's companies out there called data brokers that will sell your data to marketers, scammers, and even stalkers. And it's a nasty, disgusting feeling knowing that there's bad actors out there selling my information, selling your information for profit. But that's why I'm recommending today's sponsor, Aura. Now, I use Aura to automatically remove my information from these sites and keep my information off. But they do other things as well, such as bank fraud and identity theft alerts, VPN access. But guys, utilize my link down in the description box down below for a 14-day trial. At least see if you've been compromised. Privacy is king in this day and age, and you should know if your information is out there. So again, utilize my link, aura.com/MTR, in the description box down below to try 2 weeks free. That's way more than enough time to see if your personal data has been exposed. Go now. Anton, like myself, has figured it out. Now, I will also say, because Anton is such a damn workhorse that I respect it, he's figured it out more than me. But that's never here nor there, all right? Nevertheless, though, Corey grew up with the majority of his life, his adolescence, his high school age, not living in the internet culture. And then also, I believe Corey is from Chicago, and he grew up with dudes like that. So Corey's fundamental understanding of how to address things when it comes to what he views as disrespect will be different than a young Black man that grew up in the internet culture. And we all understand that if someone says something wild to you across the internet, because you're not going to fly over there and do something with that, then it makes no sense to allow this person to rage bait me. Now, along with this conversation, I would also add that the long-term decision-making power S will lead to much more sustainability within your life, will lead to way more money within your life, will lead to way more opportunity within your life. And the list goes on. I think it's a lot more fulfilling of an existence if, when your back is up against the wall, you operate more on long-term strategic thinking than as opposed to short-term prove oneself, so that those in your general vicinity don't view you as weak. Also, what's happening within this is that these are two multimillionaire content creators with brands, with audiences, that also your ego goes along with what's happening. I think if this exact same conversation was happening and there was not audiences at stake, there were not brands at stake, there was not millions of dollars at stake, this conversation would have never turned up to that extent as well. What's also happening within this is the comment that Corey initially made that Anton, as well as what many men would take umbrage with, was that Anton kisses white ass. The irony within that is Corey commented when Anton upped the ante and said that he, slurps BBCs, was taken as a homosexual reference. But if you go back and look at the conversation, it was never insinuated from both of the people that kissing white ass was a homosexual reference. It was an emasculating reference.
Let's slow down. Because you talking loud, but you're not saying a lot.
No, you talking loud, and you still talking around. What did the Caucasian male do to America to bring it down?
I'm not getting into that.
You dancing around it. And that's why I lose respect for you when you start dancing and kissing Caucasian males' ass.
But I don't.
Don't do that in front of me because I'm not an ass kisser of nobody.
Yes, you are. You suck the dick of black people right now. You doing the easy shit. What you do, let me tell you what you do.
Let me tell you something, homie. I don't suck dick.
Yeah, you do.
But I find that interesting because within that same hood survival culture, that imprisonment culture, if you say that, there'll be a real fight. There has to be. Why? Because that's gay. Now, I commented in yesterday's conversation that I think that because it's a internet phrase and terminology that is often used in order to weaponize actions or like the critique that maybe a black commentator will give to other black people. The meaning of it is not really seen as homosexual, right? Whereas, change the race, spit around the human being, and you claim that that man opens their mouth in front of that human being. Apparently now that then turns it gay. And the reason for that is it is the clash of not only the foundation of the particular components of black culture, but it is also a clash of someone who has only really been introduced to the internet in recent years, and that's no disrespect to Corey, but then also Anton that's been doing it for a longer time. The majority of Anton's notoriety and fame is derived off of the internet, which in contrast to Corey, he has a once a week live show. And I would argue that if you have the two walk down the street in public, you'd have a lot more people addressing Corey in public than addressing an Anton in public. Now, I might be slightly off when I say that, but you guys get the idea. But when you take a internet comment such as kiss white man ass, and then you get two people in front of each other and you say it in reality, it is important to understand that at that portion of opening up the lines or the boundaries of disrespect, you cannot then judge how that person will respond. Now, a lot of people are criticizing Corey because, he's a comedian and, you can give it, but when then someone gives it back, right? Like Corey had an option to make at that particular time, but I think that because he more so leveraged his foundation in more Chicago hood culture, he saw red. And his next course of action was to get into Anton's face to make him stand down.
Same energy you give me.
Let's switch it.
It was escalated, Anton.
Homie, I don't do no dick sucking shit.
Okay.
I'm a motherfucking man. I don't do no dick sucking shit.
I'm gonna let this ride.
I don't give a about none of this
I
shit
tell you
right
what,
now.
watch that dick sucking shit, because that'll go bad.
Call it what you want.
I don't do no dick sucking,
You
homie.
say a lot of shit that I don't what either. You
Okay,
talk
but
about what you
that
talk about.
Anton
that's
popping
it.
back.
Oh, you go.
He could have taken like a comedian option and he could have upped the ante beyond then, right? Like if Anton's saying to you, slurping BBCs, you know, Corey could have went back and been like, oh, but I just heard that you was doing a triple gangbang with Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and Dick Cheney was back there with one in the pink and two in the stink. I mean, he could have even upped the ante from a verbal perspective beyond that. But again, I think Corey took it to in real life street culture, whereas at that particular junction, Anton was still working off of words don't impact me or hurt me because that is the nature of the land within internet culture. But I just think that it's fascinating translating internet culture or internet comments and responses, and then you juxtapose that within real life and you see what comes of it. Now, when Corey then took it up to moving his chair, getting next to him and getting into his face, and then when Anton didn't back down from that position, well, he backed down from continuing to call Corey, you know, homosexual on the black penile, but Anton subverted that by taking it to a different level of let's go outside. And one of the points that I made yesterday, and I think that point still reigns true today, is, you know, and this goes for all my Second Amendment folks out there, you know, you never brandish, right? You never show something, a tool that is on you, unless a half second later you plan to use it. Because brandishing is threatening. And if you threaten, you better be prepared to pull the trigger. Because if you don't, that person, knowing that you did not pull that trigger, may cause more harm, more damage to you, or in this situation, your brand, than what you would have initially anticipated. I have a unique situation. Well, I'm not a part of the situation, but I know a guy. I went to college with him, and he was one of these knuckleheads. And he grew up in the Philadelphia area and had a lot more hood and street culture about him. We went to Penn State University, okay? There ain't nothing hood or street about Penn State University, right? I don't even know if this dude graduated. I wasn't friends with him. About 2 or so years ago, I was watching a Second Amendment channel called Active Self-Protection. And it was this young man. This young man had a food truck outside of a Philadelphia establishment. I don't know what the altercation was, okay? He pulled out his Glock on this security guard that already had a long gun on this person. The man with the long gun pointed it at him and ended his life promptly. I think about that when I reflect on this conversation of Corey versus Anton and the idea of threatening physical harm onto somebody. And I'm grateful that it did not turn into blows, let alone gunfire, right? But you also heard Corey multiple times in the conversation say that people will die over their respect. They will die over what it is that you were insinuating to me, Anton. And again, I reflect on that very real situation of this dude with this hood mentality and this hood culture threatening somebody. And then I also think to the amount of men, whether or not you look like me or if you're just a man, that are either in a cemetery or in prison right now because they allowed words to impact them to judge their next movement. I think it was also interesting to listen to Anton posture, and I don't even know if he meant to do it in this way, but to posture, how don't you know that I strategize to control you?
Who are you under control by?
It ain't. You under control by the people who will blow this motherfucker up. We ain't stupid.
Who is he? Because I want to know who.
Why do you think that ICE agent was able to shoot that woman?
I want to know who the. Hold on. Let's be real. Fuck that woman.
Now the lesson here is, and I talked about this in yesterday's video as well. Make sure you guys go look at the video. But the message here, the lesson here is that Do not let words control your next movement. Corey referenced multiple times that he had court cases, and I don't know what those court cases are, but you don't want to add new court case on top of old court case, all right? Because my assumption, and I don't know what they would have done if it would have come to blows, but the next steps probably would have been different depending upon if the blows were on screen as opposed to off screen. If they were on screen, the police or a lawyer probably would have been way more likely than if both men agreed to a brouhaha behind the studio. But please listen to me when I say this, y'all. It is way more easy to control you if you are in a high emotional state. Please listen to me when I say this to you. This is one of the most fundamental understandings, or depending upon your coin, misunderstandings about manhood, masculinity, and the benefits of value-added communication is that if you maintain frame, okay, it is way more difficult to move you. Although the conversation that we have is more of a manhood, masculinity conversation, it's the same thing in the dating game. What do I tell y'all? To always hold frame. It's the first date, the second date, the third date, right? And she's shit testing you, right? Saying or doing things in order to get a rise out of you or to test your boundaries. This conversation is relatively the same thing. She might be saying something to you. It'll get you in a weird emotional state so that she could see how it is that you react within that. And, there's some components of shit testing that I think is actually valuable because you get to see how a man conducts himself when his back is up against the wall and where his masculinity may be derived from in periods of confrontation, but always err on the side of control of oneself because you don't want to abruptly react within a situation as opposed to strategically thinking about a response that works in the best interest of yourself. Now, Corey's response, and at least initial response to the situation, was to get aggressive. And I think that depending upon your predisposition of who you think Anton Daniels is or your agreements within his talking points, you might have thought that Corey had every single right to do exactly what he did. But at the same time, I don't know how you can justify the logic of playing with a man's manhood by saying that he kisses ass and also not take that same logic. And, and although Anton upped the ante, I don't know how you can't take that logic and bring it in. But I do know that the majority of this is really not going to be playing off of logic, and it is going to be playing off of inherent biases or at least the emotional interpretation of the situation. All right, though, guys, I think that I covered everything that I wanted to cover within this video. I also received a couple of comments that Anton responded. Maybe I'll go over that as well. You guys let me know down up in the comment box, but I at least wanted to get some additional thoughts on here. All right. I know who I am. I know what I'm about. I know that there's components of black male culture that I do not agree with at all in the way that I think about handling situations. And that's because I've identified that I am not in survival mode. I am not a victim, right? If something happened, it's probably my fault, at least somewhat to a degree, and I got to be held accountable within that. Oh, let me also touch on this as well. One of the best things that I saw within that conversation yesterday between Corey Holcomb and Anton Daniels was when Anton called out Corey for switching up, whether it be, on the internet versus in real life, right? That switch up comment, Corey asked Anton for an example. The first example that he gave was like a Dave Chappelle example. And he was trying to say that, well, you tiptoed around it because of maybe your relationship with Dave Chappelle, what have you. What was Corey's initial response to that? You got it. You got it. There is a maturity in Corey's thinking.
You tiptoed around Dave Chappelle.
You talking about the last time I said something about him?
You tiptoed around Dave.
I'll give you that.
You know that Dave Chappelle's last Netflix special was not it.
And I tiptoed around it.
And you tiptoed around it
I
because
did.
you didn't want.
I did.
Okay.
You didn't want the smoke.
I did.
How many situations within life would never have occurred if men, women, anybody within your life, think about whatever the relationship is. If at the point that someone says something to you and you were in the frame of mind of not being emotional, right? Not being butthurt or in your feelings about the words that are being said to you. And within that maturity, within Corey being an OG and also recognizing that, hey, we need to probably calm down this situation, he honestly responded. Brilliant. And I wish that the video that I did yesterday, that I stopped at that point and acknowledged it, but I didn't pick up on it at that time until I watched it through again. So also, although at the point that this thing that Corey is branded off of, which is the no backdoorian thing, like he's branded off of that. So Anton saying anything that is backdoorian infused, he's going to buck up towards that. Although his response was more of a hood mentality at that junction, it was not a hood mentality later on. It was not a sensitive, it was not an emotional mentality later on when Anton got one on him, all right? So I need you guys to also consider that. And it also speaks to the content of Corey's character as well, all right? Just like I said in yesterday's video, I like both of the guys very much. I think Corey, in the way that we talk behind scenes, I see Corey as an OG, and I'm going to give him respect as an OG, okay? It still doesn't mean that there is concepts within the way that he initially handled the situation yesterday that I have to ultimately agree with. And, you know, from my video yesterday, you can see that there's some things that I took umbrage with. But that singular moment of him saying, hey, you got it, dog. Don't let that go either, all right? Don't let that go either. But nevertheless, all right, my hope again is that this don't stoke any flames to the fire. And my hope is that both Anton and Corey can do a part 2. They can sit down, they can hash it out, they can talk about it. I actually think it'll do a lot in the promotion of the mindset or the difference between, you know, the different generations of black culture going into the future and the internet culture going into the future. I think it'll do a lot. I think it'll do a lot in healing some of this, healing some of the mindset. But all right, guys, let me know what you think about this. You guys agree, disagree with the points, positions that I made within this? Write them down up in the comment box down below. I love each and every one of you guys. Let's continue to deeply analyze what's going on here. And I appreciate you guys continue to come over here for this deep analysis. I know some folks are focused more on the speed to market of getting content out, whereas I'm both speed to market as well as, you know, really trying to give you guys insight, valuable insight based off of the things that I've learned throughout my life, the successes of things that I've experienced throughout my life, being able to take that, extrapolate whatever the situation is, and then upgrade your thinking is what I am about. This is a critical thinking channel, so we must critically think. All right, guys, until next time, peace.
So, without further ado, MTR, cut through the BS like we in charge. No cap with the rappers like steel bars. I'm packing and rapping like here we are. Mediocre tutorial reviews. Like, comment, share my views. Come up and I paid my dues. Big step in my black way shoes. MTR, he break it down, yeah, it's MTR. Check out the sound with his MTR. No one put it down like it's MTR.